All right, I now call to order the May 27th, 2025 Board of Trustees meeting, time being 6:30 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you everybody for being here this evening. Ms. Clerk, can I please get a roll call?
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Daly.
Present.
Trustee Moyer.
Here.
Trustee Teets.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Eastman.
Here.
Mayor Shosse. Mayor Pro Tem, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Any amendments to the agenda this evening? Seeing none, are there any conflicts of interest this evening? Seeing none, we've got quite a full agenda this evening, so we'll roll right into it. Public comment. Now's the time for public comment. Members of the public who wish to comment on non-agenda items, please sign in on the sheet behind the podium and state your name clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide comments.
Hello, trustees. Dan Sattler, 9028 Painted Horse Lane. I'm here today to talk to you guys about the problems we're having with Xfinity, Comcast, and the promises that were made by them at the time before they started doing their installation of the fiber optics. Yeah. And they told us that we would have, if there were any damages, that they would take care of them. We wanted to use our own contractor. They said, no, they have somebody that's contracted out that they would like to use, and that's how we want to do it. We had told them at that time that we have a contractor that we use, and he will be present when they're doing the work and when we turn it on. And they did the work without him present. We gave them the diagram showing where all the irrigation lines, boxes, heads, everything were. Mr. Singwald has the actual diagram that we gave them. We also followed up by some CAD drawings. They said they're going to bury their lines 4 feet down. All our lines are about 18 inches down. It's very obvious when we turned on our sprinkler systems, there were several places that were damaged where they cut through the pipes. Tim, did you bring one of those pipes that they cut through? So it's not a little irrigation pipe. It's quite a big one. Right now, we're somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 in damages that we're asking them to pay, and they have refused. They said they're not responsible for any damages that are in the right-of-way. They said we didn't tell them where the lines were, so it's our fault. We did tell them where the lines were. 2 different documents that we told them where the lines were. And now they're telling us that they won't do anything about it. So I just wanted to make you guys aware that this is what's happening with Xfinity around town. I know they're still working with certain subdivisions, putting stuff in, and I want to make you guys aware of that. Really, one other thing is that when they went around the neighborhoods, they put flyers up on the doors. That said, if you guys have any damages to the homeowner's property, they put them on the homeowner's doors, that just call this number that's on the flyer. Well, we've had 3 separate complaints from homeowners saying that Xfinity is not only not answering, that when they leave a message, they're not returning any phone calls. So we just wanted to let you guys know that we have no choice but to pursue this through legal actions if they don't.
Mr. Sattler, your 3 minutes has expired, but if you've got, I'll give you 30 seconds to wrap it up.
I've got another 3 minutes here if you would.
Sure. Yep, we'll take it.
Okay. Um, So did you want to add anything to that, Tim?
I and my, landscape guy met with them, last fall, went over everything. I have all the blueprints of exactly where all the lines are. We talked to them about that. I gave them a smaller version that they could carry with them. Come to find out, they've had two different boring companies that have worked for them and have left. We had two different boring companies work Buffalo Creek over the winter time, and they've got a third one now that's working now that came up to look at doing the work for us, and they basically said they're not doing it. They will excavate, and we have to do the repair work. The repair work they've done is very shoddy. Where they had this in the line, there was supposed to be a rotor head above it. We couldn't find the rotor head, and we had a real wet section there. We dug down. Rotor heads have like a swing joint that comes off of the pipe and goes up to attach to the rotor head. That was missing. It was in the hole with the head. So they patched this during the winter, not after our startup. And they did such a poor job. It leaked really good, so we had to fix that too. Had 5 homeowners tell me that they can't get any calls. I've heard that we have had other problems around town with them not being responsive. You've got people that don't know it yet. We're one of the first neighborhoods that have done it. I'd like to see the town get involved in this and spearhead that. But if not, I'm willing to put something on Let's Talk Wellington and see if other people are having problems, and we'll spearhead it too. It's only $3,000 to $4,000 we're out, but it's the principle of the thing. I'm upset that the guy came and told me, and then I couldn't get them on site in order to do the repairs. When they did show up, they said that they weren't doing them. And I've got pictures. Some of you know me, I'm kind of anal about keeping documentation. But I've got pictures of exactly where the holes were. When their boring machine goes through, it chewed up the pipe. I got lots of little chunks of pipe all over the place. They were on top of the ground this spring when we were over there. And you know right where the hole is, where the damage is. But another thing that happens right here, our pipes all run within 6 to 8 inches of the sidewalk. Every place they broke it was right exactly where we told them that the pipe was. One of the other things that happens is when they don't do a job properly, or they cover it back up, and then you get rain and water and all that, you get dirt that flows down your pipe. So what we had to do, our spray heads all plugged up. So we had to pop all the spray heads off, had to put little caps on those and let it just blow out for a half hour, 45 minutes. It cost us a lot of time, but out of my repair guy and my parts, $3,000 to $4,000 so far.
Understood. Appreciate the update on that, Mr. Singwald and Mr. Sattler. Certainly we'll take it under advisement, and please do keep the board up to speed as far as things go moving forward. So thank you.
Good evening. Stephen Carmen, Park Meadows. In March 25th Board of Trustees packet, it states on page 31, a rate advisory group will serve as a stakeholder engagement body to provide input on the study and assist in reviewing rate structure options and impacts. This group will play a key role in ensuring transparency, public engagement, and community representation and rate setting process. Thank you for that, rate advisory group. However, in the Board of Trustee meeting on May the 13th, a rate advisory member asked the Board of Trustees to not allow the rate advisory group to be open to the public because it would be hard to have discussions that represent the values of the community, quote unquote, if you knew you were on camera or that people are watching you. The argument for the RAG to not be open to the public or available for streaming seems odd, as at least two of the members of the RAG are current or former board or commission members who should be accustomed to meetings that include the public, as well as meetings that are recorded or streamed. Additionally, a closed meeting is inconsistent with the stated objective of the RAG, quote unquote. The RAG will play a key role in ensuring transparency, public engagement, and community representation in the rate setting process. Finally, based on the key elements of the Colorado Open Meetings Law, I believe most residents in the town of Wellington would consider the RAG to be a decision-making body, making policy recommendations to the town of Wellington and the Board of Trustees regarding water rates. Furthermore, the RAG will have 3 or more members meeting about business that affects the residents of the town of Wellington, which constitute the public. And finally, the RAG is likely to result in formal action by the staff of the town of Wellington and ultimately the Board of Trustees. On this basis, not to mention the volatile history of the water issue in the town of Wellington, I'm asking that the Board of Trustees seriously consider making the RAG meetings open to the public consistent with the Colorado Open Meetings Law. Furthermore, I would request, if it's possible, that each one of the Board of Trustees state publicly their preference for open or closed meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carmen. Any additional public comments this evening? Seeing none, we'll move into the consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the title of the items on the consent agenda?
May 13th, 2025 meeting minutes and Caustic Injection Automation Design Services Contract.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Do I hear a motion on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
You, Ms. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. I will now recess the regular meeting and open the Liquor License Authority Board, time being 6:42 p.m. Ms. Clerk, can I get another roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Trustee Daly,
Present.
Trustee Moyer,
Here.
Trustee Teets.
Here.
Trustee Wiegand.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Shosse. Mayor Pro Tem, the authority has a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Will the clerk please read the item of title of item D1?
Special event permit application for Grace Village Cereal Box Concert.
And thank you, Ms. Hill. Looks like you're also presenting the item.
Thank you. Yes, and I'm going to present from here, if that's all right, just to alleviate some back and forth. As the board will remember, I just wanted to start out at the previous board meeting. You approved an ordinance approving some administrative approvals for liquor licenses. Special events were included in those. The next 2 items, the timing was just right where we received the applications and the ordinance won't be effective for 30 days. So those 2 special event permits do need to come to you for approval just because of the timing. Staff received the application for the cereal box concert special event permit on April 17th. The event would be held on July 16th from 5 to 10 at Centennial Park. Staff did review the application with stakeholders and no concerns were noted. The diagram, certificate of good standing, permission to use the park, insurance, and proof of posting is included in the packet for the authority's review. Staff recommends approving the special event permit. I'm happy to take any questions and the applicant is also here.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And does the applicant wish to make any statement this evening?
Just want to tell everybody, this is an amazing concert. We have an incredible band, that 80s band. If you like 80s music, they're amazing. This is an important fundraiser and awareness builder for the Community Services Center of Wellington. Last year, we had over 200 people at the Manor, and we expect about 300 this year. And we brought in over 400 boxes of cereal, so we're hoping to gather even more. We've got the American Legion is going to be manning our beer tent. We're going to have beer, wine donated by Odell's. We'll have soda, water, high noons also. And that the guys are going to be manning that. They'll be doing the whole wristband thing, checking IDs. And we expect it to be a really fun event. And it's, just so you know, it's not going to be a wild and crazy event. Most of the people who come are people like me. All us old people up there grooving and dancing to, Bon Jovi and Journey and somebody like that. Do you have any questions for us?
Any questions from the board? Seeing none, super excited to see this come back for a second year. So do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve the special event permit for Grace Village Cereal Box Concert.
I second.
Any final questions or comments from the board?
None.
Ms. Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Absolutely, Mayor Pro Tem, and I apologize, it's not on your meeting guide. Can we open it for public comment?
Oh, yes, I apologize. We will go ahead and open it for public comment, and if anybody wishes to make a comment on this item. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and take that roll call.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Daly?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Trustee Teets?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
thank you, Ms. Clerk, and appreciate you guys for coming back again this year, so
Thank
thank
you.
you.
And I just want to invite everybody in the audience and on the Board of Trustees. We're doing a cleanup day at our new location. A week from today at 6 o'clock at our address on Harrison. And we'll have burgers and soda and stuff like that. And wear your work gloves and sign up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the title of item D2?
Special event permit application for Spargetoberfest Foundation, Spargetoberfest.
And Ms. Clerk, can you please present on this item as well?
Thank you, Pro Tem. Staff received the application from Spargetoberfest Foundation on April 11th, 2005 for an event on June 21st from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. The event will take place at Sparge Field at 3999 GW Bush Avenue. Staff did review the application with stakeholders and no concerns were noted. The diagram, certificate of good standing, permission to use the park, insurance, and proof of posting is included in the packet for the authority to review. Staff does recommend approving the special event permit. I'm happy to take any questions, and I know Linda was trying to make it here. I'm not sure if she snuck in. Perfect. Didn't see you over there. The applicant's also here.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk, and Ms. Stoddard, or any of the group you have here, did anybody wish to make a statement this evening? Okay. Any questions from the board on this item?
I do have a question related to this one. On page 62, it says that we received a copy of the insurance quote, but not a certificate of insurance. So I just wanted to verify that it is actually insurance. We have a certificate of liability.
I would go back through my files and confirm. I'm happy to hold the application until I get the actual certificate. I know sometimes with the special events, the insurance company won't release it until a certain amount of time, but I'll go back through and make sure it's the actual COI.
Usually we only require insurance for special events that take place on the town's property. And this is taking place on private property. So I'm not sure we would usually require insurance in this case. It's not a requirement at all. So.
Thank you, Mr. Sapienza. Appreciate that. Any further questions from the board?
I say that's perfect because if it's not required, it saves them $482.
Thank you, Trustee Teets. Appreciate it. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open it up for public comment on this item, if anybody would care to make a comment. Seeing none, do I hear a motion on this item?
I make a motion to move to approve the special event permit for Spargetoberfest Foundation for Spargetoberfest.
Second.
Any further comments from the board?
None.
Excellent. Do I hear a roll, or Ms. Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Daly?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Trustee Teets?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Moving on to item D3, will the clerk please read the title of item D3?
New license application for Deppen Brewing LLC Brew Pub.
And Ms. Clerk, you'll be presenting it again.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Deppen Brewing LLC submitted an application on March 31st, 2025 for a brew pub liquor license located at 3999 GW Bush Ave, Unit 101. A diagram of the proposed premise has been included for the authority's review. The Larimer County Sheriff's Office has conducted an inspection of the premise, and the report of inspection was attached in the packet as well. The applicant submitted a neighborhood's needs and desires petition on May 15th to the town clerk's office. And after reviewing the boundary that was set upon receipt of the application, staff found the following. 214 signatures were collected from March 31st, 2025 to May 13th, 2025 with one circulator. 108 signatures were found to be outside of the boundary set and were disqualified. 106 were found to be sufficient and counted. Staff would note that of the 108 found to be outside of the boundary and disqualified, the majority of those disqualified were still within town limits. Staff also received the individual history report, background checks, and corporation agreements. They did not raise any concern. They were not included in the packet due to the nature of the information included in those documents, but I do have them available should the authority want to review. As a note, the applicant currently holds a state brewery or manufacturer's license, and they will surrender that license upon final approval of a brew pub license. Also, I wanted to note on page 4 of the license application, there was a checkbox that was missed and was not checked. We did review that. It was related to if the manager has any financial interest or in other establishments in Colorado for liquor licensing, and the applicant did correct that checkbox this afternoon. They selected no. Staff does recommend the approval of the brew pub license. I'm happy to take any questions, and the applicant's available as well.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And does the applicant wish to make a statement? Okay, any questions from the board? Seeing none, let's see. Are there any comments from parties in interest which include adult residents of the designated neighborhood, owner or manager of any business located within the designated neighborhood, or representative of any school within 500 feet of the proposed license? Seeing none, do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve a brew pub liquor license for Deppen Brewing LLC.
Second.
And Ms. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Houston,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passed.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And Ms. Clerk, can you also please read the title of item D4?
Soul Squared modification of premise and report of changes.
And Ms. Clerk, you'll be presenting it as well.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. MFF LTD, doing business as Soul Squared, has submitted a modification of premise for their liquor license premise. Soul Squared currently holds a tavern liquor license, which expires on December 15th, 2025. They did acquire a lease for the building attached to the current premise, and the modification would expand the current area to include the neighboring unit, as noted in the diagram included in your packet. Also included is a report of changes regarding the LLC or partnership structure from Soul Squared. Staff reviewed the modification of premise application, we received the modification premise application on April 17th, and notice was posted accordingly. Staff also held an internal meeting with the applicant regarding the modification of premise, including the Wellington Fire Protection District and Wellington's Building Department. There were questions regarding the occupancy, load, and final interior diagram updates with both fire and building, noting that they are comfortable with the diagram that was included in your packet, with the understanding that the applicant would apply for current required permits. At the time of any building permits, staff would note that the diagram may be updated to include specifics such as occupancy, final interior features. However, the overall premise of the diagram would not change from what's included in your packet. Staff does recommend approving the modification of premise license on the condition that all permits and final inspections, including a certificate of occupancy, would be approved. Staff also recommends approving the report of changes. Should the authority approve the modification of premise, staff would submit the item to the state, but we will hold all approved licenses until the time the conditions, including the CO, are met. Staff is happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And do any of the applicants wish to make a statement this evening? Seeing none, any questions from the board? All right, we'll go ahead and open it for public comment on this item, if anybody wishes to speak. Seeing none, do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve the modification of premise for Soul Squared on the condition that all permits and final inspections are passed, and approve the report of changes for MFF doing business as Soul Squared.
Second.
Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, I will say welcome back in full force, gentlemen. So, Ms. Clerk, can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. I now close the Liquor License Authority Board and reopen the Board of Trustees meeting, the time being 6:55 p.m. Roll right into action items this evening. Will the clerk please read the title of item E1?
Public hearing for consideration of preliminary plat for Sage Farms Filing 1, located east of State Highway 1 and south of GW Bush Ave.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. We will now open up a public hearing on this item. Mr. Byrd and Brittany Lenore will present.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm Cody Byrd. I'm the planning director. I wanted to give just a little bit of a kind of a overview of the next couple of agenda items this evening. We do have a public hearing. We have two public hearings, and then we have another agenda item for consideration of an ordinance. I just wanted to quickly overview why we presented them in the order that we did, and then I'll stand for any questions on that. All three of these next agenda items, E1, E2, and E3, are related to the same development. We felt it was important to present the whole picture so you can see why both are being considered. One is a preliminary plat for the first filing of Sage Farms, filing 1. Sage Farms was a property annexed a little over a year ago. It's approximately 300 acres in size. It's a multi-phased development with a PUD, which is a planned unit development district overlay. This is a master planned community with mixed densities, attached units, multifamily, commercial, neighborhood commercial, parks, recreation, open space, and trails. It's a complete master planned community. And this preliminary plat is just the first phase of that multi-phase development. The second agenda item that's being considered is directly affecting that first phase and subsequent phases. The second agenda item is for a text amendment to the planned unit development for the approved Sage Farms PUD. A text amendment is handled a little bit differently. It's a zoning request, but this particular request is only changing the development standards of just that PUD for the single family A zone district. And so we wanted to present this. We debated which one should come first. And what we felt was the most appropriate way was to present the preliminary plat first, so you can see this is how it's going to be laid out and how this language is affected. And then we'll present the PUD text amendment for consideration after, so you can have the image in your mind for what it's affecting in this first phase. Then there's the third agenda item, which is the consideration of ordinance 10-2025, which would be the board's official action on the PUD text amendment. So all this to be said, we debated this order. We think this is the right way to go. We do have two public hearings. From preliminary plat will be first. In that public hearing, what we're proposing is for the board to hear the presentations, open the public hearing, close the public hearing, consider the merits of the preliminary plat based on the findings for approval, and then make a decision on the preliminary plat. A preliminary plat does not obligate the board to do anything. It's a step that allows the developer some assurances that they're on the right path before they go into full construction document design review for a final plat, which is a requirement of that final plat review. So it's kind of a litmus test. Are we on the right path? Are we presenting what the town wants to see? And if the answer is yes, then they'll move on to doing the full design, construction standards, details, cost estimates, and things of that nature. So we're going to open and close the public hearing in that same agenda item for E1. The second agenda item will conduct the public hearing and will close the public hearing, and then the board will actually deliberate and make its findings for approval on the third agenda item for E3. That's a little bit different, and we do that specifically because the ordinance consideration is different than the preliminary plat process. Any questions on the order and why we presented it this way?
No questions, Mr. Byrd. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for letting us do the housekeeping. One other item of housekeeping that I like to do, I know everyone's tired of hearing it, but I'll do a quick overview of public hearing procedures and how that works so that everyone in the audience online knows what to expect for tonight. When we move into this, staff will present the public hearing for agenda item E1 for the preliminary plat consideration. Staff will provide a presentation. We have slides ready to go here in just a moment. When staff has concluded, we'll invite the developer, Mr. Darren Roberson, is here tonight representing the developer for both these public hearings. He'll share any additional information he would like to regarding his request. After you've heard presentations from staff and the developer, there'll be an opportunity for the board to ask any clarifying questions. We do ask that those remain clarifying questions as opposed to deliberations, so that we can just help understand for those who may want to speak and provide public comments that they have heard all the information being presented. We'll then ask Mayor Pro Tem to open the public hearing. We'll allow our residents and the public to come and speak. And then following the no more residents wishing to speak, we'll close the public hearing. The developer will have an opportunity to respond to any comments that was heard or were heard. And then staff will have an opportunity to make some closing comments. And then we'll turn it back over to the board for deliberations, findings for approval, and then a motion and vote. Any questions on this first public hearing procedure?
Questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Ms. Berg.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So without any further ado, I'm going to actually step aside for a moment. I'm going to hand it over to, I'm pleased to introduce Brittany Lenore, our Planner 3, who's going to kick things off on this public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd, and good evening, Board of Trustees. My name is Brittany Lenore, Planner 3 with the Town of Wellington Planning Department. And as Mr. Byrd has said, we will be talking about the preliminary plat for Sage Farms Filing 1. So just to go back in time a little bit, in January 2024, the Board of Trustees did approve the Sage Farms annexation, which and also established the Planned Unit Development Zoning District. To reiterate, a Planned Unit Development, or PUD, is an overlay zoning district that allows flexibility beyond what our code would allow, what the general base zoning would allow. So it is a specific overlay that allows flexibility and more harmonious character for larger developments. You can only apply PUD zoning districts to 40 plus acres. So it is really intended to be like a holistic development. So Sage Farms did start as a conceptual master plan, and you can see on the screen there's a mix of commercial, single family, and multifamily, as well as open space areas. As that plan is more defined, that's when we look at our PUD zoning overlay. And so this gives specific standards to those desired single family, multifamily commercial areas, and figures out the standards needed so that they fit together, being right next to each other. So tonight we'll be talking about the preliminary plat for the major subdivision of the 293.5 acre site. As Mr. Byrd mentioned, the preliminary plat is more preliminary in that they're not final drawings. It gives the developer some opportunity to change things if needed, understand whether they're going in a good direction that the board, planning commission wants to see, or if there needs to be some modifications. If this moves forward for the final plat, that's when this will come back to both the planning commission and the board of trustees. You'll have an opportunity to review those final construction documents, and those will be more concrete road details, sewage collection, water supply, construction level details. So tonight is the first phase. This is a multi-phase development. Sage Farms is anticipated to be multiple phases. So this first phase is a focus on, you'll see that yellow box on the right side. It is 241 residential lots that are going to be platted with this major subdivision. The blue on the outside, those are outlots. So outlots are lots that are designated as unbuildable in this stage. So there's nothing going on those lots with this phase. And that other phase 1 marker, the green, that is an existing agricultural operation lot that will be platted separately as its own lot to allow them to remain in operation while these phases are being rolled out. So it allows them to remain operating right now. When reviewing the preliminary plat tonight, the findings for approval entail that the preliminary plat is a functional system of land use consistent with the land use code and the comprehensive plan. Specifically, that furthers the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan in the small town rural character, diversity to the town's housing supply, development of the town's economic base, parks and open spaces that they're incorporated within the development, environmental quality, enhancing cultural, historical, educational, and or human service opportunities, that the utilities are adequate to serve the town and the development, the transportation design is adequate. If there are any negative impacts, that they've been identified and mitigated, and that there's a need or desire within the community for this type of development. And so when we're looking at the lot and block layout of specifically the 241 single-family lots, this layout does provide for single-family lots where single-family is identified as being planned for and desired. The lots range in size from 4 to 12,000 square feet, with an average being around 5,000 square feet. And these layouts are similar to the neighborhoods we see in the immediate vicinity, including Sage Meadows to the north, Mountain View Ranch, and the Knowles subdivision to the east. When we're looking specifically at the comprehensive plan and the PUD zoning district and how this relates to those, you'll see it's a little hard to see. The comprehensive plan, I circled it or boxed it in a red box, but it does envision this area as being a mix of commercial, low and medium density residential, and parks and open space land uses. And so the Sage Farms PUD was specifically designed to meet the intent of that comprehensive plan. And this phase will focus on that low density residential as of right now, the platting of the 241 lots, along with that one lot for the agricultural operations. The comprehensive plan speaks also on being respectful of the town's agricultural history. And so this will allow this person to remain operating at this time until redevelopment affects that specific parcel. When looking at the zoning, as I mentioned, the PUD was designed in this way. And so there is that same mix of single family, multifamily, and commercial and public open space. This phase, the developer worked with staff to ensure that the lot and block layout met the single family A PUD district. So it does meet all the regulations outlined in that single family A planned unit development. So I will turn it over to Mr. Bird.
Thanks, Ms. Lenore. So kind of picking up where Ms. Lenore left off, you can tell that we have put a lot of thought into how this, the zoning, the PUD overlay reflects to the long-range master plan for this community. It's also important to note that oh, are you running the slides? We'll get that coming right back up here. So I wanted to take a moment too to highlight that as part of that longer range vision, this first phase contemplates a lot of the infrastructure that's going to be needed to support subsequent phases, even future development. So when we get the graphic back up, or you can refer to the poster board here, along GW Bush Avenue and along Highway 1, you see some of these larger outlots is what they're labeled on the plat. An outlot is simply a term that we use that designates that there is a subsequent review process necessary to consider how that individual parcel of land is going to be developed over time. So when we're talking about the long-range vision here, the map that we referred to for the PUD zoning map highlights those purple pinkish kind of colors as outlots for multifamily. So some of these large parcels that would be multifamily or attached single family in the future, will still go through a different consideration review process for those individual proposals. When we're looking at this first filing for phase one, we're looking at the street connectivity to make sure that all of the roads align to serve those future outlots as well as the current proposed lots. It contemplates, are we on is the slide back up now? Can you advance the next one? Perfect. So when we look at utility design, we're thinking about, is there an ability to serve water, sewer, all of the town's utilities for all of the lots and the future outlots within this proposed subdivision? It is a phased development, so we recognize that some of those finer pointed details were going to come later, and each of the phases will have to evaluate the prior phases to build off of it. As we make a decision on phase one, that's going to have an effect on phase two and how it's laid out, and phase three, and so on and so forth. So getting that infrastructure piece consideration up front now is pretty key. I'm going to dive into a couple of those in a little more detail in just a moment, but while we're on this slide, I do want to point out the non-potable irrigation design for this subdivision. At the time of annexation, this property was identified as having two non-potable groundwater irrigation wells. They're historically used for agricultural purposes. They'll be repurposed to provide the outdoor irrigation needs for this entire subdivision, the full master planned project. So it is important. It was an important consideration at the time that this has a non-pot system for it, and that will continue to be utilized. At the time of annexation, we also identified that it's great to have those well resources, but we also wanted to consider what if the wells go down for any reason, if they need maintenance for an extended period of time or something of that nature, would there be an opportunity for a redundant supply? And so we've worked with the developer. They are providing a redundant water supply through North Poudre irrigation laterals. There is a North Poudre irrigation ditch along GW Bush Avenue that, as part of phase one, is contemplated to be relocated. It currently kind of cuts diagonally across the commercial site here. It'd be squared off to kind of follow along the roadway in its own easement, but it would be relocated and undergrounded. But it would also serve for, can you go to the next slide? I think it illustrates it here too. I'm sorry, I'll come back to that one. But the ditch does provide, or has the opportunity to provide surface water to the irrigation ponds that are here on the next slide. So as I'm talking about the landscape and open space design, we did, as we're thinking about the master plan for the community, this community, we did run this past the Prost Board, Parks, Recreation, Open Space, and Trails. They evaluated the proposal for the parks and open spaces, and they supported what was recommended or proposed by the developer for this phase one. It does include 2 pocket parks, a north-south trail connection that connects the neighborhood for walkability. The open spaces that were contemplated along roadways were supported by the Prost. And on this slide, I also wanted to point out just momentarily that because this is a phased development, there is a proposed interim pond condition. This is sized appropriately for supporting this phase of development. As later phases come on, this pond would actually go away. It would be redeveloped for approved uses, and a new interim pond would be built with phase 2 until it reaches the ultimate condition where the final permanent pond would be supporting the entire subdivision. Next slide. So here on this slide, we're showing those, one of the pocket parks in the irrigation pond in that top left image. And just off of that image is GW Bush Avenue here, and this is where that secondary water supply for surface water would support those irrigation ponds. We are showing in that right image the trail connection through one of the pocket parks. This trail connection you can see is visible in this corridor here through the subdivision, and then tying back up to existing public pathways and into the trail connection that runs through Sage Meadows going north and connecting to other areas within town. As later phases come on, we would expect that trail connection to continue south and eventually into Fort Collins through Larimer County open space and tie regional to our trail systems. In your package, you did also see a more detailed landscape plan proposal. We know that those specific plantings, the locations can change a little bit between preliminary and final, but it has been thought out, and those, we put the landscape legend here. I know it's hard to read on this screenshot, but in your packet, that's a zoomable PDF. All the plants that are recommended in that planting plan are following the town's adopted landscape and irrigation design manual. Next slide. So transportation. When we look at a preliminary plat for road connections, we're looking primarily to make sure that there are interconnections at the appropriate locations, that the roadways are designed to the correct standards to support the expected level of travel. We've evaluated a traffic impact study at a staff level. That's a very long, tediously worded document that outlines the expected trip generation and where those meaning vehicle trips, and where those vehicle trips are expected to go on the roads to and from the subdivision. Staff's evaluation of that traffic impact study and the proposed road alignment is that it does meet the town's requirements for connectivity. They're at appropriate locations, aligning major roadways with existing roadways, having adequate number of access points to the subdivision for emergency access, and connectivity with State Highway 1, which is an arterial corridor. So these goals for the preliminary plat are, in staff's opinion and through the Planning Commission's recommendations, meet the town's objectives for roadway networks. We did identify as part of the traffic impact study, there's some additional details that will be needed at the final plat stage. There is a recommendation for a roundabout at GW Bush Avenue and Wildgrass, which is the kind of the connection of two collector roadways. The roundabout there is proposed due to the number of traffic trips that would be accessing through this subdivision to State Highway 1, which is our major connecting route. And so queue lengths, traffic timing, and access onto Highway 1, we didn't want to result in backups at these intersections. So the roundabout provides more continuous flow where long queues of vehicles wouldn't be obstructing another intersection. We did note that there needs to be some additional detail on that roundabout, and we'll work those details out with the developer for the final plat. Next slide. So as we're wrapping up this portion of the presentation, we just wanted to highlight that this has been said once or twice before, but preliminary plat provides kind of that overall view of how the subdivision is intended to lay out and check some of the boxes for, have we met park and open space dedication requirements? Have we contemplated utilities and how water, sewer distribution lines, collection lines can serve all of the lots and proposed lots from now and in the future, and making sure that we've satisfied the Prost review, which is for Parks, Recreation, and Trails, which they have. They recommended acceptance of the preliminary plat, and the Planning Commission's considerations contemplates the same findings that the Board of Trustees does. So as we're evaluating the preliminary plat, we will conduct that public hearing as we discussed, and the board in this particular public hearing item will make your findings for approval. The Planning Commission's recommended findings are in your packet. The board can either adopt the Planning Commission's findings, you can modify the Planning Commission's findings, or you can make your own findings if you find that there's something else that's relevant that needs to be said. So all of those are options for you for tonight. And then following your public hearing, any of those deliberations, your findings for approval, you would take action on the preliminary plat. The preliminary plat doesn't actually result in any final products. It just enables the next steps to happen, as we discussed a moment ago. So staff can answer questions, or I'd like to also invite Mr. Darren Roberson, the developer here, to share any additional comments and feedback regarding this proposal for a preliminary plat for Sage Farms Filing 1. And before I hand over the podium, I do want to also mention that I'll circle back and ask the board to, as part of your public hearing procedures, to disclose any conflicts of interest or share any ex parte communications, which are communications received outside of a public hearing. And we'll do that before we open for public comments. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Byrd. Mr. Robertson, any comments?
Hi, my name's Darren Roberson. I just want to thank Mrs. Lenore and Mr. Byrd for all their hard work. We've worked on this project for many years, so We're hoping to bring some diversity to Wellington that you guys haven't seen, some affordability that I think will ultimately with the whole project as it builds out, will bring a new aspect to Wellington. So any questions at all?
We'll open it up for questions from the board. These are just clarifying questions at this time. We'll keep deliberation for a little bit later on, but any clarifying questions from the board? Seeing none. We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Okay.
If that's all right. Anybody wishing to speak on this item, 3 minutes, and please sign up at the podium. Oh. Mr. Byrd, did you want to do the ex parte piece first?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Tem. So I know you've disclosed it at the start of the meeting. We do this for each public hearing item, so you'll get to hear it again in a minute too. But we do ask if you have any conflicts of interest on this particular item, if you could please disclose those this evening.
Are you going to do ex parte separate?
I can, that's what I was going to do, but we could do it together at the same time. Okay, I'm not seeing any conflicts of interest. Thank you. The next question I was going to ask is for ex parte communications, which are any information received outside of the public hearing.
I was in attendance during the pros meeting where they reviewed the plans. During that meeting, we received far less information than we were just provided during this presentation alone. This will not impact my decisions or opinion, and I'm confident there's no concern there.
Trustee Teague.
Just we received communication related to some questions that we had from Ms. Garcia related to the packet, additional questions where we're encouraged to reach out if we have questions. So, and that was via email. I'm sure that we all saw the communication. So other than that, nothing.
I did briefly reply to a Facebook comment made earlier today, but that was nothing that wasn't already included in the packet. So I think that's trustee.
This was during a public hearing, but I was, took part in the planning commission when this was annexed originally. So just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up the item for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak on the item, you'll have 3 minutes to speak, and if you'd like to join us at the podium.
Hello again, Stephen Carmen, Park Meadows. I also am on the Planning Commission, and I have voted in favor of some, but not all of the components of this development, generally in favor of it. I look forward to seeing this come about. I would just like to make a comment about page 141. And appreciate, Brian, your, Mayor Pro Tem, your comment that kind of alerted me to this earlier today, so thank you for that. On page 141, there's some comments about financing agreements, cost-sharing agreements, reimbursement agreements for infrastructure. For those who may not be aware, the Planning Commission is involved in comprehensive plan, land use, zoning regulations, and planning initiatives. Planning Commission is not involved in financing agreements, cost-sharing agreements, or reimbursement agreements. So I come to you as a member of the public and just ask that the board not treat this development any differently than other developments or future developments. The general feeling, I think, and from many in the town, is that the financial situation of the town is not healthy at all, whether it's related to water or other things, and it just does not make sense to subsidize this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carmen. Any further public comments this evening? Seeing none, let's see, Mr. Robertson or Mr. Byrd, any rebuttal or closing remarks as far as that goes? Yeah, maybe specifically in regards to the cost sharing piece, I do have some comments on that as well, but.
I did not see the Facebook post on the cost sharing, but I'm sure I'll hear about it. Guys, a lot of the cost sharing, we got to have something in our annexation agreement because we don't know if we're going to have to upsize the sewer for future development or something like that. And that's kind of what I believe we're referring to on cost sharing, or upsizing water lines for future development, or extending sewer lines, or putting in a traffic signal at GW Bush and Highway 1. That should not be the burden of the developer. It should be a burden of whoever is it impacts, which is more of a regional. And so that's where there'll be cost sharing, I believe, or at least asked for.
Appreciate Mr. Robertson. And actually, maybe if I could just clarify in regards to some of the comments we received earlier today. There was some discussion about cost sharing in regards to the town in some way subsidizing infrastructure for Sage, which I suppose I somewhat disagree with, and I'm sure that some of the rest of the board has some comments here. But I did want to read a piece from page 127 of the packet, which I think very much defines what these things are. Infrastructure needed for development is installed or improved and paid for by the developer. Where the town infrastructure plans require oversizing to meet future growth needs, the town has the ability to share costs for incremental oversizing costs, take advantage of construction equipment while it's already mobilized for construction, and limit the disruption and expense of excavating in already developed areas to expand existing infrastructure. Additionally, streets and infrastructure installed to support the proposed subdivision will meet the infrastructure needs for the future commercial lots that will create opportunities for existing businesses to expand and new businesses to locate in Wellington that will strengthen the town's economic base and generate additional retail sales tax. So I did want to be very clear here that this plat that we're considering is in no way any type of special treatment for Sage as far as this goes. These are pretty general things that we do for any development that we would consider going forward in terms of upsizing and making sure that we can deliver the utilities that we need to our residents. So I just wanted to make that clear. I do think there would be some further comments on that, but if Mr. Byrd, as far as that goes, anything you want to say in addition as far as closing remarks?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate you bringing that up. You took the words right out of my mouth. Being on page 127 and 128 of the staff report has some similar information regarding oversizing and other cost implications of subdivision work. I would add to it that actually, I think Mayor Pro Tem even said it, that we don't typically have cost sharing agreements if the town is not also asking for something in return, like future development oversizing. So that I think it was well said. And the only other thing I would point out is that at the time of preliminary plat, there are no cost decisions being made regarding this. As we've said a couple of times, a preliminary plat identifies the overall intent of the development pattern for that phase of development. And as additional details come in with the final plat that include design level details, construction drawings, and actual cost estimates for the public infrastructure needed to build it, including any oversizing required by the town, we would have a more financial discussion with the Board of Trustees as part of a development agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Definitely appreciate the comments there. We will now go ahead and close the public
sorry,
hearing
Mayor
on
Pro
this
Tem.
item. We're getting to that.
No, I was just asking, so it sounded like we went into a deliberation or discussion. Are we doing that now or?
It's the next item right now.
Okay, so, okay.
Yes. If we're ready for that, does the board wish to deliberate further on this item, Trustee Teets?
Yes, I do. So I just first of all want to say I'm very grateful to Darren for including the Pros Board for the feedback on the parks and trails. I encourage that when this item does come back to us, that the changes or adjustments are made to align with the 2015 Parks and Trails Master Plan. I know that there is made mention in the packet that they'd like to see some of the items match up and coincide with what our 2015 Parks and Trails Master Plan states. I was excited to see the plans for the non-pot outdoor coming from working with the 2 wells you have on site, as well as working with MPIC to handle the additional water that may be needed in drought areas or if those wells aren't producing enough. One thing I will say is I do not agree to the cost sharing agreement for extensions of sanitary sewer mains. While the town of Wellington can choose, as in our ordinance it states, we can choose to do that cost sharing, and that's understandable. When I look at it, I don't know if everyone brought their town budget, but in the budget book, if you were to look, our sewer fund is negative $1.3 million, and our capital fund for sewer is negative $900,000. So I had specifically asked where this cost sharing comes from. So if we don't have the funds to support this, who pays that cost share? And that was a question that I had sent previous in the week. And I was just looking for clarification, because how I see it is we go negative in those accounts and we have to make up for that negative. So how I see it is that is an increased sewer rate that our now residents will have to pay. And that is what I have an issue with. When I say and when we sit and say development pays their own way, that is exactly it. When we talk about the GW Bush and Highway 1 interchange, that is CDOT. That's not the town of Wellington, that's highway. So when we look at sharing the cost of that intersection, we don't even have control or say over what happens on Highway 1. I mean, we can provide feedback, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be CDOT that is the one should be handling that cost share. So I feel like that's a negotiation or discussion with CDOT and Sage Development. That was one of my main concerns when I look at cost sharing. I think it would be irresponsible because we don't even have a cost sharing estimate. So we're saying we're going to agree to cost share. Are we talking $200,000? Are we talking $3 million for these roundabouts? The last I checked, when we were discussing roundabouts at County Road 9 and Highway 1, it's millions. So where does that millions come from? If someone tries to tell me that those millions are from tap fees and those millions come from building and developing in that subdivision, then that CIP fund, that fund is specifically made to fund future development and future maintenance and costs related to these upgrades. I'm all for the generalized idea of everything presented tonight. I love everything about this PUD. What I do not love is looking at the idea that we are going to, again, ask our residents to shoulder future cost share developments. And that's kind of what bothers me the most in this. When I look at, and one of the other questions that I was hoping to have answered that did not get answered originally was how this impacts our residents now. And I think that's one of the main things to look at when we look at these cost share projects. If we had the funds, great. If we could say, here, we have $5 million to invest in this, fine. We have roads that are falling apart right now. Like literally you can walk and drive these areas and see that it's that way.
Trustee Teets, would you mind just wrapping it up for us? I'll give you another 30 seconds.
I'm done.
Appreciate it. And I do think some of those are very valid concerns. I did, again, want to highlight, obviously, this board has had a number of preliminary plats put in front of us before. Preliminary plats do not include some of those numbers. So, again, this is kind of a handshake deal to be able to say that we want to see that development move forward. And those costs will, again, of course, become before the board. Now, obviously, at that time, we would make a decision as to whether that would be something we could move forward with or not, but we don't have those numbers yet. So I do look forward to seeing those in the future. Trustee Cannon.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And thank you, Trustee Teets. I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. My issue is the paragraph that says financing of municipal services expansion as well. It says the developer shall enter into a cost-sharing reimbursement agreement with the town that allows the developer to be reimbursed for any improvements that benefit this and other properties as these properties develop and connect into these improvements. And it talks about requires sanitary sewer, and I'm familiar with upgrading sanitary sewer because if it serves a larger regional purpose. I know George W. Bush is it's not an arterial road, but it's a major road that connects to some of the arterial routes. Language like this kind of locks the town into, okay, we've got an agreement, a signed agreement that's been approved, going through a public hearing, saying, okay, the developer shall enter into this agreement. Whether or not we were talking about money at this point or not, which we're not, and I've got a lot of respect for Darren Roberson. You know, we worked together a long time, and I know you're a good man. You do good work. I live in one of your homes. But I am concerned that this language may lock us into agreements that we can't afford. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cannon. Trustee Moyer.
I guess I need to seek clarification from Dan. I'm a little confused as to whether or not that verbiage is what we are discussing in terms of a final plat approval tonight.
Cody, and I'm going to ask Cody a quick question and clarify.
Just kidding.
I think it's a good question, and I hadn't read it the way you are. This document starting at page 137, who drafted that one? That was a submission from the applicant, right?
Yeah, I think some of the language that I heard quoted, I don't have the full printed packet in front of me, but there's an attachment titled Development Narrative, which is language prepared by the developer in an effort to explain this is the development intent for how we intend to lay things out and what we intend to accomplish. So some of that language I heard quoted earlier was coming from the developer's language, which is not an agreement with the town. It's a description of this is how we intend to do things.
So it is not legally binding, and that would come before us at a later date.
This entire discussion is about approval of a preliminary plat, which is always subject to change in various ways in the next stage of this process. So this is just a preliminary plat. If the board is contesting, the shall in that one application, you could always approve this with a motion conditional on that language being revised in the next version, I suppose. I mean, this is a preliminary plat. This isn't locking into any sort of contract with the developer.
Right.
No, this isn't binding at this point.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make that very clear. I have no other question.
Yes, I would love to see the language in that change to may. I think that would solve a lot of problems. And also too, I want to thank Darren. Oh,
I'm sorry, point of order, I think. I don't know that we should actually be discussing this at this moment.
If that language is a sticking point here, that exact language that's in the narrative, that's in this preliminary plat application may not be coming back to the board in that exact, I mean, there's the next thing the board sees, the next thing the planning commission sees will be a very different application than this. I mean, so I don't want to say that word changed, but trying to think of how to phrase that so that to make sure that this is addressed in future ones. I mean, anything with cost sharing is going to have to come before this board for formal approval at a future date. Let me think on that a little bit.
Yeah. Mr. Sapienza, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, if I may, this was not the question that was asked, but I think it's salient to the conversation regarding the shall versus a may. I would point back to the annexation agreement that was approved by the board for contemplating the planned unit development and bringing this property into the town limits, has similar language that says that the developer shall enter into agreements with the town for each development phase. And part of that annexation agreement contemplated there will be oversizing requirements the town asks for. There will be road projects that the town may have some accountability to provide a portion of those costs. And so the shall enter into agreements, it's not defining what the dollar amount is or who pays for what. It's saying that the developer and the town have to come together and agree on something that this board has to support and adopt.
Thank you, Ms. Bird.
So question, then we are coming together and agreeing to adopt.
Or not
The-
that point.
Yeah, the annexation agreement says that we shall come together and agree and adopt at some point. Agreeing to adopt a cost sharing agreement that is $0 is an opportunity too. So it's not defining the dollar amount or what, it's just saying that an agreement is needed in order to pursue the improvements that are necessary to serve the development.
Thank you for the clarification. Mr. Wiegand.
And one thing I want to do is thank Mr. Robertson. I mean, multi-million dollar project here. I come from an area where I saw a lot of big builders go bankrupt just because of the change of the economy. You know, he's putting a lot of faith in our community, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Wiegand. Trustee Daly.
Every once in a while, we hear the question, why didn't the town think of that? Why didn't they plan for that? And this is a perfect example of it. So say for every development, they did exactly what was required and only needed for that development. And then, as we know in the comprehensive plan, we anticipate growth. I imagine that everybody is aware that that may happen. So if an adjacent property comes through and then they're there, and it requires that we tear up the roads of the entire previous development in order to put the appropriately sized sewer line there, that costs way more money and is, the expense of the town would be significant. So instead, we have this wonderful comprehensive plan that says, we anticipate, and likely what could happen is this is the growth of what the town looks like. It references this in our documents here. So if we were to not consider planning in advance and saving that money in the future and taking advantage of all the equipment and activities that are already occurring for improvements and having them use that for oversizing, the town saves so much money and is ready for what's next. So this is the discussion that's at hand and that I'm hearing. It is consistent with other development plans that we have done. I see absolutely no problem in this, and whatever those agreements might be, those agreements will be made in the future and will be designated from the actual costs and activities and responsibilities. So nothing in here is signing us up to do that, and exactly what those costs will be and what those activities will be, we do not know yet. So I see no issue with that as it is presented in front of us. I do want to actually go to the findings, though, for doing deliberations. This entire project meets better than ever I have ever seen, and aligns with our comprehensive plan more so than any development we have ever seen. Talking about the diversity of housing, the affordability, and then different options, and also including in the future, commercial is the most holistic development we have ever come across. Also, what's before us right now aligns with what we have agreed to through annexation and also from the PUD plans. And in line with the comprehensive plan, it provides a lot of different options. But overall, when reviewing the findings of the Planning Commission, I agree wholeheartedly with everything that is brought up there. I do want to just call attention to a couple of the pieces that I think are worth referencing. So in addition to aligning with a comprehensive plan, it very much aligns with all of our master plans and as well as our strategic planning for this year and for the next few years. It includes the diversity of housing, which I mentioned earlier, but I think that is very important, and that is also referenced in our comprehensive plan. The entire development is very sensitive to and respectful of the surrounding areas, as well as our town's promotion of rural living, as well as agricultural roots. More so, again, than I've ever seen before, considering it will be a working farm for the remaining lots that aren't going to be developed immediately. The proposed commercial development is going to improve many, many opportunities for our community. And in general, right, all these rooftops are incremental property tax that we'll see as these houses and value of the properties are improved, as well as sales tax for each one of those. How does sales tax come from a rooftop for a household? It's by Amazon or any other online sales. Suddenly, every one of these rooftops are improving sales taxes. The parks and open space is very well accommodated for this as well. The addition of the ponds is wonderful, not only for the irrigation purposes and responsibility for those new homeowners for the costs that they will have associated with the irrigation, but also for bringing beauty and open space and just parks to the area. The route and the trail that goes through it is really wonderful in connecting and expanding our current trail system, and will give us opportunities to tie in with Fort Collins trails in the future, a huge upgrade that we've been looking forward to for a very long time. The redundant water source is amazing and an extra level of responsibility we have not seen from previous developments. And then in general, this entire development is really ensuring the vitality of our future for the town of Wellington, and bringing us, all the permits and things that are vital to actually making sure that our affordability for the entire town is protected when it comes to utility rates. The transportation design, again, is being planned for and thought of with wonderful future insights of what's next and what's coming and how that's going to serve the rest of the community. Overall, the findings of the Planning Commission are incredibly sufficient and very thoughtful, and I agree with those wholeheartedly.
Thank you, Trustee Daly, for going over the findings for approval. Does the board have any further questions on this before we move on?
I have one thing. I'm sorry. I got so hung up on the rules. I failed to just thank the thoughtfulness and intention behind the multi-use, multifamily incorporation, the variation in lot sizes, and all that that will make possible in terms of sizing and affordability. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Moyer. Trustee Teets?
I just want to verify one more time with Mr. Byrd that entering into this plat, the information that is provided from the Sage Farm first filing preliminary plat, page 137 to 141. Wait, sorry, let's keep going. 142. Sorry, there is a lot of pages here. To 147, so 137 to 147, we are not taking any of this information into account this evening.
Trustee Teets,
When we're approving this plat, we are not taking in the items that Trustee Cannon and I and Trustee Wiegand just spoke to. That is not taking it into account, any of this.
I'm going to respond. Trustee Teets, thank you for the question. I'd like to respond with another question. Your reference pages 137 to 147 of the packet, and I believe those, I don't have those printed in front of me, but I believe those are the development narrative that we discussed a moment ago. Is that accurate?
It's attachment B, general development information.
Okay, thank you. I didn't have the title. So the general development information was the document that the developer submitted describing their project. So if your question was, do we account for it? Can you clarify what is meant by how do we account for it?
Are we legally bound to this if we vote and approve on it?
I'm not your counsel, so I would refer to Mr. Sapienza on the legalities.
This is information that's included in the packet. It absolutely should be taken into account. This is a public hearing, and this is
Thank you.
information included in your packet in making your decision. So in approving a preliminary plat, yes, it should be taken into account.
And that is the items that Trustee Cannon, myself, and Trustee Wiegand discussed with the cost sharing and items like that are in it.
Yes, what we had said earlier was that this vote is not legally binding anybody to cost sharing in the future. It's anything related to cost sharing will come back before this board in the future for deliberation, debate, discussion, and approval. But this information is part of the preliminary plat application.
Awesome. Thank you.
To acknowledge the concerns that were brought about, would it be recommended to change that word to shall to may? Is that something that would acknowledge those concerns, or just so I understand where you guys are at and what the resolution is that we're seeking.
If I may speak, I'm satisfied with with the answers that I was received both from legal and also from Mr. Byrd, and understanding, preliminary plat procedure is an introduction.
Yeah.
And when you start getting into the, your final plats and you start drilling down into those things, each one of those will have a development agreement.
Mhm.
And that is the time really to discuss if we object to something within the development agreement.
Okay. I thought we had acknowledged it, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was kind of feeling that they were heard in that. So, okay, thanks. I heard it being acknowledged. I just want to make sure everybody was there too.
Mr. Robertson?
We have not even got into the weeds of what it's gonna cost. Because right now we gotta get the preliminary finalized and then we'll move forward on different costs. Right now, One Stage Meadows is actually finished in the 5th filing. The town is required per the traffic study to put in a light at GW Bush and Highway 1. That's not on me. So that's why we're saying there'll be some give and take on some cost sharing, but it shouldn't be on this development. And that'd be priced in and worked out in that development agreement as we bring it through. The roundabout, we weren't even asked for cost sharing on that. That was part of our development. But there's also train crossings and other crossings that have to be done that's more of a community regional. And on the last train crossing, I hope the public knows that I barely got any reimbursement on that train crossing. That I got reimbursed about 250,000. And because of the delay of the town and trying to get it through, it cost nearly $1 million. So again, there was no cost sharing in there. Shame on me the first time, but there will be cost sharing on future train crossings. Or let's just pull the project right now, and I'll just pull it right now. And if it's going to be, hey, there's not going to be any cost sharing or any development agreement, and we're not going to negotiate that, why am I going to spend another $200,000 to bring this forward? We'll just pull it now, and then you guys will have no permits, and let me know how that works out. So, that's how I feel as a developer. There has to be some cost share. You can't ask me to upsize a sewer. Otherwise, I'll put an 8-inch in, because why do I need to pay the difference in amount? So, but again, we haven't got into those weeds yet. We plan to, but I don't want to have it all or none. I don't want this board thinking that, hey, we're not going to pay anything to this developer for reimbursables that he's not obligated to do, because I'll just let it sit. So, but we got to get through the preliminary plat first. So.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Any further questions from the board? Do I hear a motion on this?
I move to approve the preliminary plat for Sage Farms Filing 1 based on the findings for approval recommended by the Planning Commission, and authorize the applicant to move forward with preparation of the final plat.
Second.
Any final comments before we take the roll?
I want to apologize, actually, if we come across as unwilling partners or anti-development, because that is not the case, and you are truly appreciated for bringing your business and your infrastructure to our town and helping us grow.
I'm sorry, I do have a further comment. This has absolutely nothing to do with an attack on development. This has absolutely everything to do with protecting our residents and their rates now, because the reality is when you are that much deficit, that money has to come from somewhere. And my job is to protect our residents here, support development, but protect the residents here that are already, some residents paying $1,600 a month in water rates. So that is where my concern comes in, is making sure that we are not approving these to slap other people in the hand. I won't say face, but so it has absolutely nothing to do with anti-development, and has absolutely everything to do with protecting the cost to our residents now.
Thank you, Trustee Teets. I do want to just to nail this home. This is a preliminary plat. We do not have cost sharing numbers. They will come to us at some point in the future. And if there's a concern about that, I'm sure every person on this board will voice it at that time. This is a preliminary plat. Just can't make that more clear. Ms. Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Daly.
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Teets.
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. And will the clerk please read the title of item E2?
Public hearing for ordinance number 10-2025, considering approval of amendments to the text of section D.2.B of the approved Sage Farms Planned Unit Development PUD.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing on this item, and Director Byrd will present.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Very briefly, I'm just going to recap. This is a new public hearing item, and this one is a little bit different than the last one in that this is a two-parter. We'll do the public hearing first, and we'll have introductions by staff. The developer will have an opportunity to share any additional comments. We'll open the public hearing, and we'll close the public hearing. And that'll be the end of this item, is just the public hearing. I will acknowledge in the staff report, in the background for this, we did explain that you should make your findings for approval and then close the hearing. After further deliberations with the town council, we didn't feel that that was quite appropriate. So our recommendation is to close the public hearing and then do your findings for approval in agenda item E3. So that's a little bit different than what the staff report originally laid out. Otherwise, we'll proceed in the same manner that we did for the last one, beginning with disclosure of any conflicts of interest and ex parte communications. So Mayor Pro Tem, I'll turn that over for you and the board to make any disclosures necessary.
Thank you, Ms. Byrd. Any conflicts of interest or ex parte communications from the board? Seeing none, other than the Facebook comment that I mentioned earlier, I think that's all I have. Let's see, and Mr. Robertson, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say on this particular item before we open it up for public comment.
So Mayor Pro Tem, if I can interrupt, I do have a quick presentation, and I think we lost our Wi-Fi, so we're scrambling to have a backup here.
Apologies, I missed the presentation part, so thank you.
No worries, no worries. As this is loading up, I'll give you a quick introduction. Next slide. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is a related to the same development, Sage Farms Planned Unit Development, the master planned community that overlay as a PUD, Planned Unit Development, overlays the existing base zoning. This particular request relates only to the single family A portion of the approved PUD. And that single family A was an overlay of the R3 residential zone district that was in place at the time this was considered. This being the planned unit development for Sage Farms. Subsequent to that, the town has made legislative changes to the land use code regarding housing affordability and changed some provisions around the number of residential units that are attached, lot sizes, density, a number of other housing related development standards. And in review of the preliminary plat for Sage Farms Filing 1, we identified that the planned unit development language that was approved prior to those legislative considerations by the board was in line with the old code and not in line with the new code changes. And as a result, it needed to be evaluated. And next slide, please. So in your packet, we provided just a close-up of that language. I know it's a large document with small print. It's a zoomable PDF, so everyone should be able to zoom in and read all the details that you would like to. But for purposes of tonight, we did expand this a little bit so you could see it very clearly here. The language in question is just for that single family A area, and the existing language limits the number of dwelling units to 6 dwelling units attached per building and 6 dwelling units accessing an alley. We've since changed that and others. So what the request from the developer was to just remove the limitation of 6 dwelling units per building and 6 dwelling units per alley, and instead let the underlying lot size and lot and block configuration identify what is the appropriate type of dwelling unit for those areas. Next slide, please. So here's the Sage Farms PUD district layout. You can see in this, the predominant color here is yellow for the single family A. Next slide, please. Highlighted in this light blue color is the area that's affected by the text that we're discussing tonight in this public hearing, which is different than the purple color, that's the multifamily R3. That's the bluish color at the top for single family B, or the dark green there for single family C. Those are all different sections of the plan unit development, different district provisions. So we're only focused on the yellow area here for single family A. Next slide, please. As we just considered on the preliminary plat for filing 1, this language is restrictive such that in the same image that was shared a moment ago, within this red boundary box, there's 2 blocks here that have more than 6 units per alley, and this would allow either single family attached or single family detached. Either way, that reflection of 6 units is going to be limiting for those 2 blocks. So we did present this, second, because the preliminary plat helps explain the why, and this is the reason why that language is being requested to be removed, to reflect blocks that would be consistent with the overall theme and walkability. Next slide, please. So in considering a text amendment to the planned unit development standards, these are your findings for approval that need to be considered by the board. That the amendment is not likely to result in significant adverse impacts to the natural environment, that the amendment is necessary for protection of health, safety, and welfare and morals of the community, that the amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the land use code, and that the amendment is consistent with any other prior approvals and plans or policies that affect that area. So going through this, these are the findings you need to consider. The Planning Commission, again, considered those same findings in its recommendation to the board. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this text change to the PUD as being consistent with the comprehensive plan, consistent with the intent of the land use code, consistent with prior approvals, and the change of not having a restriction on the number of dwelling units per alley or number of units per building doesn't have a significant impact on the natural environment that wouldn't otherwise be created by developing land. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval of this text amendment, and staff does as well. Similar to the last one, in evaluating these findings, the board can adopt the Planning Commission's findings. You could modify those Planning Commission findings, or you could make your own findings if you feel necessary to consider this particular request. We do recommend that we're presenting it now, and we put those findings from the Planning Commission in this packet to again be representative of these are all the details that you should evaluate and consider as part of your public hearing. But we do recommend making your findings in the actual deliberations under agenda item E3 in just a moment. So I know this seems like a lot of information for what amounts to about 12 or 14 words on this otherwise large planned unit development. So it is a relatively simple change, but pretty important for those couple of blocks and future phase considerations for this overall plan unit development. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, and Mr. Roberson is here if he would like to share any additional information on this request.
Thank you, Ms. Bird. Any clarifying questions from the board on this item? Trustee Teets.
Just out of curiosity, what are the lot sizes?
Yeah, those were considered on the preliminary plat, and then staff report identifies ranges from 4,000 to 12,000 for the single family residential lots.
Got it. And more than 6 units would fit on a 4,000 square foot lot?
No, I'm sorry, your question's a little bit out there for me, but a 4,000 square foot lot would support 1 unit in all likelihood, but the text applies to the entire district area for all that yellow area.
Got it.
So it's not just this preliminary plat, but all the other future considerations as well.
Perfect. That's my only question.
Thank you.
Trustee Gannon.
No question.
Trustee Moyer. Trustee Wiegand. Trustee Daly, no questions. All right, I do just have one real quick one, and it's real minor. I'm just kind of curious overall, and Mr. Roberson, maybe you have the answer to this. I was just curious about the, obviously this is preliminary, but I was just curious on the block layout that's presented on page 224. Do you anticipate that changing much from what it is now, or I'm maybe don't have well, it's not on this map, it's in our packets map, but.
You're talking about the alley load lots?
Yeah, correct.
If anything, we would just get rid of the alley load lots, which would be a different product affordability that you guys wouldn't have. Our whole intent when we were doing the PUD was trying to limit not having more than 6 units attached. And we kind of superseded it to 6 units in a block on alley load, which was a mistake. So if you look at our alley load, we'd have to have, after every 6 units, we'd have to have a street. Just wouldn't be feasible cost. And we all missed it as you're trying to go through a lot of wording for a PUD. And then when we brought the plat through, that's when we caught it.
Yeah, understood. I was just curious, so appreciate the clarity there.
Otherwise, we just get rid of the alley load, but I mean, it's a great product to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Any diversity of options we can have is good to have, right? We need affordability in Wellington, and this goes a long way to get there. So we will now open this item up for public comment. Any members of public wishing to speak on this, you'll have 3 minutes. Seeing none, if the applicant would, any closing remarks, rebuttal, obviously no questions. So closing remarks as far as that goes, Mr. Byrd?
I don't have any closing remarks. I appreciate the consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd. Any additional questions from the board? Seeing none. Okay, we will now close the public hearing on this item and we'll move into the actual ordinance. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the item, title of item E3?
Ordinance number 10-2025, approving amendments to the text of section D.2.B of the approved Sage Farms Planned Unit Development PUD.
Ms. Clerk and Mr. Byrd and Ms. Lenore will present on this item again.
Very brief,
If there's any-
very brief because we've touched on it already, but this consideration of the ordinance is the board's action for this request for the text amendment to the planned unit development for Sage Farms. The ordinance as drafted by staff is included in your packet for your consideration. I just want to clarify, this is a final approval. I think I may have misheard a moment ago about preliminary. I think it was reference to the preliminary plat.
Yes.
And there may be some changes to lot lines, adjustments, widths, sizes, and things of that nature on the final plat to address design criteria. But this text amendment to the plan unit development is proposed as a final action.
Yes, thank you. And that is what I was referring to. So I appreciate you clearing that up. Any additional questions from the board? Do I hear a motion on this item?
I move to approve ordinance number 10-2025, an ordinance adopting amendments to section D2B of the Sage Farms Planned Unit Development.
I second.
Ms. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
We need to do findings prior to that. More additional deliberation.
Mr. Byrd, findings for approval. Should we run through those real quick?
Yeah, if you have findings other than what the planning commission recommended, and I think that's a great catch if you want to proceed with those in your deliberations.
Thank you. Mr. Byrd, Ms. Daly?
I want to note that I do agree with all the findings available that were provided by the Planning Commission. I also want to note that I think that these changes actually make the plans more so safe and affordable. And if anything, I think it's an improvement on any issues associated with adverse impacts. So good impacts. I said 2 negatives, but overall, all of the responses regarding the findings are sufficient from the Planning Commission, and I agree that we should move forward with those findings.
Thank you, Trustee Daly. We do have a motion on the table, I believe. So, Ms. Clerk, if you'd please call the roll.
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Trustee Daly?
Yes.
Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Trustee Teets?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. All right, we'll roll into final reports this evening. Town Attorney, Mr. Sapienza.
I have a first item for kind of an update for the board. This is actually related to Sage Farms, which you're quite familiar with this evening. Back in August of 2024, the board adopted a resolution related to the exclusion of Sage Farms from Elko, kind of the provision of water service by the town there, and so it'd be taken out of the Elko district. The Developers Council for Elko and I have been working on this for sometime since August 2024. And Developers Council took the lead and actually filed filed the case on this on Friday. So if you notice in the newspapers, there will be service out there because we have to serve all tax-paying electors of Elko. So this case is moving forward. It's a relatively simple matter, but I just want to bring that to the board's attention. It's effectively the court has to grant permission for the special district to change its boundaries, and the town will be taking over that service. So that's a very positive thing. It's a good step forward for Sage Farms, and it's been something that's been being worked on for quite some time now. A second item is related to the Cleveland Avenue project and that right-of-way. That project's going to require, and I think this has been brought to the board's attention a couple times, it's going to require acquisition of property for the full size of that right-of-way. There's some land that needs to be acquired, some easements that need to be required, and because of the federal funding and state funding and CDOT right-of-ways and all the different overlapping jurisdictions, there's a very specific process that has to be complied with to acquire those properties. Federal law, state law, CDOT policies, all those things apply to how all of this works. So I wanted to give you a heads up that on June 10th, that's the next regular board meeting. I highly recommend we have an executive session for legal advice as well as a discussion of acquisition of that property to give some details of how that would work. At the moment, the hope would be to have that session begin at 6 o'clock at the very beginning of the meeting, or kind of before the regular time of the meeting, so the meeting could then progress at 6 o'clock, 6:30 as normal. But I wanted to bring that to your attention just to give you a heads up. There's a lot of information we want to provide to the board on how that process moves forward, and I may be in touch with you between now and then. So, thanks.
Excellent. Appreciate the update. Administrator Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor and Trustees. So when I've had my one-on-one meetings with most of you, I've let you know about the concerns we've had about the Wellington Senior Resource Center and their lack of funding to complete the year. I'm happy to let you know that they have received some donations and contributions. They will be before you in June to talk about their needs for the next upcoming year, but wanted to let you know that they are getting some support throughout the community to help pay for their driver and things like that. So pretty happy with that. And also wanted to remind a couple of you have signed up to go to the regional elected officials meeting on Thursday. I think that is Mayor Pro Tem Mason and Trustee Cannon that will be attending that meeting in Loveland. So thank you.
Excellent. Appreciate the update. Staff communications are included in the board packet. Any questions from the board as far as those reports? Seeing none, we'll roll into board reports. Trustee Teets.
Well, I just wanted to say I've got two things actually. One, I was able to attend some amazing seniors graduations at our Wellington Middle High School. And I will say that it was kind of special, a little windy, but kind of special to get to see that graduation happen. Congratulations to all the grads. We've got some pretty amazing students that stepped up to give speeches, and yeah, it was kind of a neat experience to get to go and see. I got to experience it with a percentage of my family, and it was really nice to go and see that. My second item comes from a public comment this evening related to the water rate roundtables and the request to have this open to the public for transparency. I support this wholeheartedly, and I ask that my fellow trustees also support our residents being able to attend these meetings. This is a series of 4 sessions where our residents can literally sit and hear about everything related to water rates, water decisions, recommendations that are coming to the board. I wholeheartedly, it's one of those things that we have heard time and time again, that we need to let residents hear what's going on so we can get it out there, move past it, and continue moving forward with our water. I am all for the transparency that comes with this. I understand it was made mention, we do have members attending that actually previously sat on a board or currently sit on boards. My question would be I would love to support this, and 2, request to see if the board members themselves are comfortable. I know we've heard from one, but we have not heard from the rest of them to see if they don't care that residents attend and hear about what's going on with their water rates. So I would ask for our board support in doing this. I think it's huge in being able to let residents get to hear what that rate structure is all about.
Thank you, Trustee Teets. And Mr. Sapienza, I think it would be prudent maybe for the board to get some clarity as far as open meetings laws and advisory groups. I don't know if now would be the best time for that or executive session or what you would prefer to do there, but
As you know, I've provided the board with a memo on this topic, explaining relating my opinion on that. If the board would like further discussion on the legal issues around the requirements related to the open meetings law, I would highly recommend we enter into executive session. But however, I think, Trustee Teets's comment here was really on the, I would say on the policy of it. There's nothing, there certainly is nothing prohibiting opening those meetings. But however, if the board would like a further discussion on the legal requirements of OML as applied to that group, I would recommend executive session.
do we have other members of the board that want to entertain that as far as an executive session on potentially tonight if we've got time, I suppose?
I would like to not, and also would like to request that you not put words in my mouth. I think you said that the other trustees do not care, and I don't think that's the issue here. And we can play it back. You did. And I do not appreciate that. I think your comments about caring about the residents now, when we were discussing the other issue earlier, I think the implications that none of us care because we're not voting the way that you were voting is egregious and defamatory and not appreciated at all. So I would appreciate if you would refrain from that in the future. Thank you.
I don't know that we need to entertain much of this going forward. Let's see, I'm going to move on from board reports. Trustee Cannon.
Sometimes government is messy. Sometimes it needs to be messy. Sometimes messy means people getting involved. I have no problem with public attending this. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Cannon. Trustee Whedon.
I agree completely with Trustee Cannon there. I think we have to have trust out there, and whether it's the federal, state, local, or whatever, I think trust is kind of missing at the moment, and the more transparent we can make it, the better the trust we'll have. And so I'm all open to make it an open meeting at that point. You know, they're not going to be commenting from it. They're just going to be able to be in there and see how the sausage is made at that point. And, you know, it's not pretty, but, you know, I think everybody just needs to understand we're doing the best we can. The people on the advisory board are doing the best they can. They don't have anything to hide. And again, everybody that's on there are volunteering and, you know, just giving their soul to that. So I'm for an open meeting. Another thing too, I'd like to see us talk about the Xfinity thing. I don't know when we can bring that up, or I guess we cannot. So not at that time. Okay, thank you.
Trustee Daly.
I agree. Everybody should know about what's going on with water. Absolutely. Everybody needs to know. But the forum in which we're doing a resident roundtable is not the correct environment for mass learning of all the details. So if it is important to this board for everyone to kind of understand our water situation, you know, what goes into rate making, history. I mean, we've done many of these already. History of it, being able to ask questions. This would be a great topic for a town hall where we actually create content that is then available for mass understanding of exactly the scenario of what's going on. I think if it's really important to our board to make sure that everyone and anyone can learn and ask as many questions as possible, I would propose that we do this as a town hall and have things prepared. And that way we can have all the experts present. We can show all the documentation and information that the roundtable is receiving, but their conversations, it's not that it's not appropriate for other people to hear, but it's like classroom workshopping. So it's just not the right environment for it. So, and also rest assured, as this one and every other one before, There's no policy being created in these resident roundtables. They are learning information in depth, discussing the values and how, from a perspective of a resident and now business owners who are also participating in this, they're trying to understand their values and what they think is representative of the town. They are not making any rates. They are not creating any policy. They are doing nothing that makes any type of decision other than really coordinating all that information together in a package so that we can kind of see their in-depth, very studied, workshopped responses. All those responses, anything that occurs during these, I just want you to not be, to mistake what this is exactly. Every result and response of this process will be presented publicly to the board and available for public comment at that time and further deliberation so that we kind of understand the values. And then it's our responsibility as a board, because this is what we do when it comes to budget making, is decide after we see what their values are, what recommendations are, for us to create a utility billing process and policy. So this group is making absolutely no decisions. They're doing a classroom style workshopping. And this content, though, is fantastic. So if we want to open this up to the public, let's do it. Let's do it in an environment in which it's better for a larger group. I'm fully behind that, and I want everyone to know exactly what's going on. I want it to be completely transparent. But with that note, if anyone is super bored, we have gone through so much history of water within our town on, I don't know, I want to say like 20 in-depth presentations, but that's not the same as talking to someone about it. So that's what a town hall could do, is we could talk to the experts, have everyone there and available, and have materials for them. So I love it. Let's show everyone, let's give the information to everyone, and let's encourage them to participate. And I think that might be a way to do it. So I might pose that we consider that as a roundtable upcoming, as a town hall upcoming. And then I'm the one of two that introduced the resident roundtables to our board after a CML presentation. Not that this is some amazing idea that I came up with, but they showed the success of these, doing a very intimate environment for community members to come together and really learn and understand and make recommendations. This was a recommendation that we received at the Colorado Municipal League in the way it operates. So that's why it's been recommended, and that's why it's been done this same way multiple times already in the past. So that's my comment on that. Let's tell everybody about water. But outside of that, I wanted to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day, especially to our veterans present here and everywhere. I got to participate in several of the events that occurred and were hosted by our American Legion in town, and they are tireless volunteers who are all about creating community and supporting veterans in town. And I think that they are amazing members of our community, and I wanted to thank them from the bottom of my heart for doing these. Also feeding me all weekend long. I don't think we paid for food all weekend because we got free hot dogs, pancakes, sausage, burgers, and all the things. So it was a wonderful weekend of being together and celebrating and remembering those who have given all to our country. So thank you and happy Memorial Day. Other than that, there's some fun stuff coming up. Congratulations to our graduates, of course. Other fun things that are approaching, because summer is almost here. School's out on Thursday or Wednesday for high school. We have a summer movie series where you'll have movies in the park with a big giant screen that we blow up. It's going to be so much fun. Those movies are occurring once a month through summer, June 7th, July 18th, August 8th, and September 5th. You can go to our website to get more information on what movies they are. Kung Fu Panda is the first one. It's going to be in Centennial. Oh, excuse me. I'm all about telling people the wrong parks to go to. This happened last time too. June 7th, Kung Fu Panda is in Community Park. Not Centennial Park, but there are two movies in Centennial Park. So I'm very excited for those upcoming. It was mentioned earlier, the CSC Community Services Center is doing a cleanup on Tuesday, which I will be attending. And we do not have a meeting. So everyone who would otherwise be here should do volunteering. That would be fantastic. And then their cereal box concert, which we already talked about. So a great, to support the food bank, I think that would be a wonderful thing for people to participate in. Speaking of Memorial Day and veterans, there's a new nonprofit in town called Friends of Wellington, who their goal right now is to help support the Veterans Gardens that will be coming to Community Park as well. I often talk about nonprofits and what they're doing. You know, Grace Village and the food pantry is amazing. Yet another addition to our wonderful nonprofits is Friends of Wellington. So you'll see them more about creating engagement opportunities and getting people out to parks and enjoying being together and gathering. So they'll be supporting that major project that's coming for the Veterans Garden at Community Park. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Daly.
Sure.
Trustee Moyer, I apologize.
That's okay. Thanks. I just want to let everybody know that tomorrow night, 5th grade commencements happen. So more graduates to add to the group. Congratulations to them as well. And then I did want to go ahead and comment on the roundtable. I'm the only one sitting up here that participated in one of the water roundtables, and I feel passionately about it because I was a participant. And I think the transparency is amazing. The town hall idea has come up before, and I think that would be fantastic to do, of course, if we want to, provide that education. There are also all of those videos that are available. But I think the intimacy is the key point in this process, and it brings together people that would not otherwise come together to have really serious conversations and talk about what's important to them. And so, yes, you would have the opportunity to see the sausage made, but I can guarantee you it would be different sausage that you would get. And I think that a lot of people know that, we were able to recommend people to that board, and some chose not to participate. But the people that did choose to participate, there are some that have also participated in the past, and they did so. They made that agreement under the understanding that the roundtables would be conducted as they were in the past and as other roundtables were in the past in the same structure. And so I care about those residents too, and I care about the fact that they showed up and they agreed to take the time to participate in this important activity for our town, and I would not want to bait and switch them in any way with the understanding that they had of what they were signing up to do. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you, Trustee Moyer. And Ms. Smith, did you have a comment you were trying to make?
Thank you. Just real quickly, Megan Smith, Deputy Director of Public Works. I'm with Nick Redavid, Mr. Redavid, Finance Director, leading the charge on the rate and fee study update for 2025. I just wanted to mention, I personally don't have any major concerns with opening it to the public, but my biggest concern would be exactly what Trustee Moyer just stated, that to this point, the invitations that you all extended to your recommended appointees did not go along with that communication that would be in public view. I'm happy to, and I think that could change certain participants' interest in participating, as it was voiced even at the work session that we can go back and review that we had with the Board of Trustees and the proposed stakeholder group members, that they took a lot of beatings in the public from the last process. And I do have concerns that this would invite that same, if not worse, situation. I am fine to I'm comfortable taking a beating like that. I get paid to take that beating. These community members do not. And I think it could create, it has the potential to become less than fruitful. I do think that it would be a great idea to provide, and I would have no problem with providing all of maybe the packet material as additional education material out to the public. We can even post that online. The first packet has already been created and sent out to the stakeholder participants. I will say I have received several pretty direct questions from some of our stakeholder group members, and did need to remind them questions about reviewing usage data for specific customer classes and that sort of thing. I did need to remind even those participants, this rate group, the purpose of the rate advisory group was as a form of stakeholder input, knowing that the water utility did not have the funds required to do broad community-wide stakeholder gathering, input gathering. As we all know, it is incredibly intensive and very expensive to do. And this stakeholder group was requested to come together to provide input on those community values, input on customer impacts from rates, customer perspectives, looking at reviewing our rate objectives, kind of the driving forces behind how we, or, you know, what sort of rate structure we have in place, keeping in mind that we have generated a lot of whiplash for our customers and our ratepayers over the last 5 years. And we're not interested in continuing to whiplash our community like that. We're looking to create a lot of consistency in how we develop rates and implement them moving forward. So we're not, it's not this effort is not a review of our expenditures. It's not a review of our, you know, individual customer usage. It's not a technical analysis. It is a rate objective and community perspective input gathering. And it was slated that way in a smaller group setting because, to be frank, it's what we could afford in the budget allowed for this project, for this study. That's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Appreciate the comments. Yeah, you know, along those lines, I'm just going to say, you know, clearly in the past, right, our roundtable advisory groups, again, have not been open to the public. And typically I am all for transparency, but in this particular case, in my opinion, we need open and honest roundtable participants that are not going to be harassed or accosted by folks that may make accusations or things like this behind a keyboard or a chair or whatever that may happen to be. My goodness, we know there's some interesting things that go on out there. So it's just of my opinion that, you know, this advisory group makes recommendations that come to this board to vote on, right? So if residents have an issue with something that this board is going to vote on, I plead you to please come to our meetings, make public comment. We do take those things very seriously, but I do not want to see roundtable members be harassed or anything like that outside of a meeting where they may discuss what is very much a controversial topic in this town. So again, if something comes before this board to be voted on, please do come make your public comments. We very much want to hear those. Other than that, hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend, and I have nothing further as far as reports. We do have an executive session this evening, so Ms. Clerk, can you please read the title of item G1?
Apologize. So is that a yes, we're opening it, or no, we're keeping it closed?
This is a board report. This is a board report, so if there is a formal request from any 2 members of the board that want to bring this up as far as a future discussion topic, whether that's executive session or agenda item, I suppose you can make that request.
The first meeting's tomorrow night?
Yes.
Okay, so they'd miss one of 4 sessions. Got it. Well, I'm comfortable bringing this up to our board for approval if that's something that we need to do. So do I need a second?
I would, if anybody wants to second it right now, yeah, absolutely. I suppose we can do.
A second.
Okay. Ms. Garcia, can you please add that to the agenda?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Clerk, if you'd please read the title for item G1.
For the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiations, developing strategy for negotiations, and/or instructing negotiators pursuant to 24-6-4024E CRS, and for the purpose of receiving legal advice pursuant to 24-6-4024B CRS regarding matters with the North Poudre Irrigation Company, as required by CRS 24-6-402 2D.5, 2A, and 2E. The executive session proceedings will be electronically recorded, and the record will be preserved for 90 days through August 25th, 2025.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session?
I am not comfortable at this time going into executive session based on the admissions and some accusations made. I would rather that we find a solution to those and then proceed with our further executive sessions moving forward.
This is for North Pooter, correct? Only for North Pooter.
Yes, I'm aware.
Okay. I move we go into executive session and then we can take.
I second.
Ms. Clerk, do I hear, can I get a roll call, please?
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
trustee Daly,
Yes.
trustee Moyer,
No.
trustee Teets,
Yes.
trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem, that motion, I might rely on the town attorney. Does it have Anita correct?
Executive session requires a 2/3 vote, so that would pass, with 2/3 of those members present.
Thank you. That motion passes.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. For the public, the board is now entering into the executive session. Members of the public in person will be asked to leave as the Zoom meeting is also ending for all users. Thank you for coming tonight.